The Trump transition. Well, congratulations to her.
We also need to ask Liz Miller what she thinks about all this. The newly minted Department of Government Efficiency, Doge, expected to lob a shattering blow at federal bureaucracy and redundancies.
Was that a misspeak? Trump administration epically owned. Yeah, I really do mean what I said, by the way. I really do think it's going to be important to like lay the groundwork for speaking to people who are dissatisfied with the way the Trump team. Okay, so far, I should make it known, in what I have seen, there has not been a single substantial budgetary cut that has been recommended, addressed, or even hinted at by Doge or any of the people glazing it. It's been like Republicans saying, oh, this grant was given through this program, and for $1 million it did a thing that we don't understand, so maybe it's not that useful, actually. You know who the Republicans are never going to cut the budget of? Right, I shouldn't say who, I should say what. The Pentagon. Never, ever, ever. For all your talk of budget cutting, I mean, if you want to talk about budget hawkery, there's only so many places it can come from in a real sense. And it's the military or social spending. I mean, you've got like Medicaid and such. You've got the Pentagon, got Social Security. If they don't go after the military, which they won't,
Elon Musk
Social
and
Security.
Vivek Ramaswamy both tapped as co-leaders. Listen to this.
Over $500 billion that's spent every year right now was not even authorized by Congress in the first place. They can't even tell you where it goes. We've talked a big game for...
You mean the Pentagon? Like the Pentagon failing its seventh audit? This was just the other day. Pentagon fails seventh audit in a row, unable to fully account for $824 billion budget. Again, this is... in terms of like just flat out employers, I'm not mistaken, this is the single largest institution in the world. Now, well, maybe there's like a Chinese government institution that is technically like half the country's economy is roped under it. We're at the very least like one of the largest. We're talking about like an ungodly amount of wealth and power, millions and millions of employees. It's very big. Number 2 here, list of largest employers. Oh, interesting. The Indian Ministry of Defense actually just barely beats out the Department of Defense. Huh. And then there's the People's Liberation Army in China. And then Walmart at number 4. Fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. Okay, I didn't know. All right, well, India and China both have like 1.4 billion people. So I feel like if you're talking like in a per capita sense, the Department of Defense is the largest institution relative to the whatever. You get me. Anyway, yeah, Pentagon failed its audit. Why? Well, there's 2 reasons. Some of the money that goes into the Pentagon, they don't want to tell you where it goes for national security reasons, like with our satellite spy program. A lot of the money that isn't accounted for, though, it's just graft and corruption. That's it. You know? Military industrial complex stuff, classic. A lot of money goes out there. And people always say it's like Raytheon or Lockheed Martin. It is not just Raytheon, Lockheed Martin. There are so many companies tied up in this. You have like administrative and bureaucratic companies or companies that exist exclusively to manage like top secret credentials or information clearance. You have companies that are involved at every level of manufacturing. So it's not just Lockheed Martin. Where are they getting their steel from? Where are they getting their parts from? Who employs the people that they get their steel from? We're talking about like consultancy. The overall, the number of people who owe their jobs, more or less, like directly or indirectly, to the Pentagon, just kind of an unknowable amount of people. Like, we can take guesses at it, but it's kind of Congress members want $26 billion for programs the Pentagon didn't seek. Yeah, sounds about right. Sometimes Congress will throw more money at the Pentagon than the Pentagon actually wants. Sometimes it's because it's just politically favorable, like congressmen want to brag that they funded the building of more tanks or whatever. And often it's because of like corrupt relations with the companies that build those weapons, you know? The Pentagon might not want more money to be thrown at them, but that money does end up going to Lockheed Martin, so Lockheed Martin does want you to throw more money at them, basically. Is America just a giant scam? I am describing capitalism, so, you know, it's a broader institutional problem, but, I mean, sure, yeah. Cool system. Oh, yeah. I mean, imagine spending $26 billion on programs the Pentagon didn't seek when Israel would have loved that money. 7th audit in a row. with the goal of achieving a clean audit by 2028 will never happen. We will never get a clean audit of the Pentagon. It is not possible. It will never, ever, ever, ever happen. You know what they don't tell you about the Pentagon? I know this sounds really stupid. You really don't get a feel for how big it is unless you're there. It's like the Washington Monument. The Washington Monument, if you're looking at a picture of it, it's like, oh, it's a big tower. But if you're actually at the base of it, it's like, wait, it's massive. Same with this. I was driving past it. I don't know what the name of the highway that runs by the Pentagon is. It is incomprehensibly large. Like, it's so big. Who cares? I care because I like big buildings. I think they're cool. Didn't one of the 9/11 planes hit the Pentagon? Yeah, barely did any damage too, because the Pentagon is like really durable, which fits considering what it's built for. But yeah.
40 years about cutting the federal government, about reducing the scope of the federal government. Politicians haven't been able to do it. And so Elon and I, we're not politicians. We're businessmen. We're coming at it from the outside.
Mr. Wonderful. Kevin O'Leary is the chairman of O'Leary Ventures, and he joins us now. So, Kevin, back in 2010,
it's an
the
interesting
Simpson-Bowles
outfit.
Commission proved that it's not hard to find waste, fraud, and abuse and places to cut spending. What's hard is getting Congress to go through with it. Is that going to be any different this time around?
Yes, it will be different. What Bowles didn't have
Wow, I completely forgot how this guy sounded. That was very unpleasant.
at that time was the megaphone Elon Musk has. You got to remember, politicians have to raise money. These days, they do it using social media. Now, what Elon has, that people keep forgetting, because they say, well, he doesn't have a legislative mandate here. And I say, oh, he's got better than that. He's got X. So what happens is you're in some state somewhere and you own...
I cannot overstate how funny it is that in every single photo of Trump and Elon, Elon looks f***ed up. He's never doing his own thing. He's never talking to other people. He's either like shuffling along with his eyes on his feet, or look at this, locked in on that stare. Yeah, this is the ketamine stare. It's absolute. Look, he's even leaning into it. Look at his head and neck. He's literally leaning his head into it. He's like 5 feet away, or I don't know exactly how far away he is. Not doing the trig on that one.
Own a project to nothing, and you're spending $2 billion. He just will shame you out. He'll start naming to all of your voters exactly what you've done wrong, and what you're not doing to fix it. And I love the concept of just squeezing heads to stop waste, because all he has to do is turn on the machine. Now, it's going to be very contentious. I've said this multiple times about this mandate. The power he has is not to be underestimated, because if you can get to the voter of that governor or that senator that's wasting money in his eyes, and he can make a good case on X, you're going to cause a lot of damage.
I wonder how Trump supporters parse the fact that they think they're anti-establishment revolutionaries, but if you look at everyone associated with Trump and all the people who glaze him and all the people who go on and talk in favor of him on Fox News and every other institution that does, they're all like ultra wealthy evil people who have their hands in the deep state, you know? Like, it's like you don't have a ragtag team of activists or like, you know, grassroots organizers or whatever supporting him the way you did with Bernie Sanders, an actual populist. You literally, like, every guy who is the swamp steps out and they're like, yeah, I'm in favor of Donald Trump privatizing more government institutions. Well, of course you are. You'll buy them.
In that constituency. And I love this idea because it's a negotiation. That's what it is. If you don't fix this, I'm going to call you out.
Yeah, the $44 billion he spent on X might seem like a bargain in the long run if he gets to leverage it like that. Here's a breakdown.
Just casual, like, wealthiest man in the world spending $44 billion to buy social media, which he then uses to lobby for the to use as a propaganda apparatus. I appreciate them being shameless about what happened, you know? And it's true. We made fun of Elon Musk for spending all that money on Twitter, but if he managed to, which he did, successfully leverage it in favor of becoming the shadow president, yay. That's great, you know?
Down federal spending, just so that folks at home know where their tax dollars are going. Health care, 25%, Social Security, 20 to 25%, defense, 13 to 15%, safety net programs, 10%, interest on the national debt, 8 to 10%. The way it breaks down is 61%.
So yeah, where are you going to cut $2 trillion from this? Out of curiosity. That's the claim from Elon. And by the way, they're running with that claim because Elon was asked, how much do you think you could cut from the federal budget? And he said, $2 trillion. And they just ran with that. Didn't do any math on that one. You know, just kind of Just kind of ran with it.
Of spending is mandatory. 13% is on debt service. 26% is discretionary, which really will be the target of Doge. And that is a small piece of the pie to try to wring $2 trillion out of, Kevin.
I don't know. I think healthcare could be another place of savings. We haven't really used any technology there yet. We haven't really digitized medical records. We really haven't brought a mandate of AI into that.
That's great. Yeah. So for those of you who don't know, here we go. I found the little breakdown of it. You have discretionary and mandatory spending. Discretionary spending is the long and short of it essentially is that there's stuff where you're given like an allotment to spend on what you need to, and then there's stuff where there's like a congressional guarantee of the allocation of the funds. If you take a look at the mandatory spending, it's overwhelmingly here's Social Security, unemployment, labor, Medicare, and health. It's all like social spending. That's 5.2 trillion. They're saying that Elon is going to cut 2 trillion largely from the discretionary spending. Now, the problem with that is that discretionary spending is half military, which he won't touch, and it's not even 2 trillion in total. So we already have a problem. Now, people like Kevin O'Leary and Elon Musk and stuff are lying here. There are things here they want to tackle. For example, all of these little pie charts right over here, these are institutions that for the most part make modern life possible. Like it's not really possible for a modern day government to exist without institutions that handle stuff like this. This is the case in every developed country. We have a fairly well-developed administrative state. I think that there are ways to cut down on the amount the administrative state engages with it, but not with Congress in its current state. So you've got education, health, veterans benefits, and so on. You can cut costs here, to be sure, but cutting them effectively and efficiently would mean, well, you'd have to not be an idiot. So that's not going to happen. And they're not going to touch the military budget. They're just not going to. If anything, it's going to get larger. So now you have mandatory spending, where you'd have to, work more directly. You'd have to work on like a congressional mandate for where that money comes from. And a lot of it is Social Security. A lot of it. Like we spend about as much, no more on Social Security than we do in the military. So I'm just saying. By the way, I think Social Security is a bad program. I think that we should selectively decommodify certain things, certain commodities and services for people based on their status. So I think if you're elderly, you shouldn't be given some amount of money based on like a proportion of the amount you paid into the such and such. I think that's stupid. I think it's dumb. I think that if you're old, you should just get like a voucher that says, yeah, you get to have, you get your food, you get your housing, like here's housing that's compatible with that voucher, basically. Like food stamps. You get the old pass. Sounds stupid, but like it objectively saves money because that way you're not running through this like complicated payback system where you end up paying market rates on stuff. Instead, it seems more like food stamps where you just get it at the government's dime and the government can pay for it at a lower rate because it's the government. If the government wants to pay for a commodity or service at a lower rate, it can because it's the United States government. It's very powerful. That seems insanely patronizing. Why? We should be delighted. We should have stuff like this all over the place. Why should everything be left up to the private market so financiers, venture capitalists, and bougie freaks can decide how much you have to pay to get your daily calories in? Why should your housing costs be determined by the whims of the market when housing is a literal life necessity? Now, if you're going to be subjected to the whims of the market when you're of working age, that's one thing. I still think it's bad, but that's one thing. But if you're of retirement age, why the hell should you be subjected to that system? That's ridiculous. I hope you've been paying into the system your whole life, so maybe you get a pithy stipend to live off of. No, you're of retirement age. You should get food. You should get housing. You worked. Don't you deserve that?
I think we could save a lot of money. The U.S. has one of the worst IRR returns on healthcare spending when you can compare it to some of the European countries.
That's true. If we had Medicare for all, it would be a lot cheaper.
Like Switzerland or England or France, they do a much better job, but they share the records on a much more ubiquitous basis that we do. We're always concerned about, privacy, but I think we could fix that too. But I like looking at everything. I don't see any reason why these two can't just release the hounds and go nuts. Everybody's interested to find out what they're going to see, and I'd like to hear it myself, because maybe it's a means test on Social Security.
Isn't it interesting how many of the people who are glazing Doge are glazing them for something that they don't even know how they're going to do? Like, we are applauding Vivek and Elon for doing something that not only have they not done, we don't even know what they're going to do or find or how they're going to do it. Like, we're kind of putting the cart before the horse here, don't you think? The only reason demon freaks like Kevin O'Leary are happy about this is because gutting government spending means that the private corporations have more room to make money, you know? Corporations love it when the government is gutted. As far as they're concerned, the only thing the government's good for is making sure society is stable enough for people to show up for work and providing the police and military needed to protect property rights. That's it. That's the only thing. That's why, like, as kleptocracies grow, and you see more and more like regulatory capture, eventually everything gets folded into the private, the private economy, leaving the government as just a shell intending to protect property rights. That's it.
We have to fix this because the deficit's getting a little big right now, and the bond market's starting to get a little uneasy in the 10-year. I worry about that.
Yeah, I mean,
that's awesome,
no
Tempest.
question.
Yeah, Wick is great. Wait, Tempest, editor Tempest, my beloved Tempest is saying, I found out something interesting about Wick. My friend has it, and they don't give them money. They give out vouchers based on weight. So depending on the size of your family, you get X amount of food you can buy based on the total weight your family is allocated. Okay, by weight, do you mean like literal weight, or do you mean like weighted by the size of the family? You don't mean like weight. Did you know that for every $1 we put into Wick, we get $7 back? Weight of the food. Okay, weight of the food. There we go. Yeah, weight of the food. Yeah, no, Wick is fantastic. For every $1 you put into Wick, which provides resources to mothers and children, women, infant care. What's the acronym again? I should really know this. Special Supplemental Nutritional Program for Women, Infants, and Children. Right, Women, Infants, Children, WIC. Now, is it sexist that they're leaving men out there? Yes. But for every $1 invested in WIC, the state saves $7, because making sure that women and children have the money that they need to get the food they need significantly reduces the likelihood of arrests or criminality in the future. And also it leads to higher educational attainment, which means better jobs, which means more money, which means more taxes. So putting money into WIC literally saves the government money. Now, people have been saying this for decades, but has the government responded by dumping a bunch of money into WIC? No. Why? Because people like Kevin O'Leary are all over our government, both directly in it and in the consultancy class. The literal deep state, preventing us from doing things that improve the country because corporations would prefer it if people didn't get food for free.
Social Security is something that might need to be looked at, but Simpson Bowles said,
no. Oh, no. All the Republicans desperately hinging on their elderly voters. We're not going to cut Social Security. That's ridiculous. Why would you think that, in spite of all the evidence that we're going to do that?
Social Security is something that might need to be looked at.
No.
Simpson Bowles said, let's look at that. And Republicans in Congress said, nope, not going to touch that. So Elon Musk is having no end of fun with all of this. America, his PAC.
No, please say it out loud. Say that you plan on cutting Social Security out loud. I appreciate it. It's better than you lying.
Produced this tweet saying, quote, the Pentagon just failed its 7th audit in a row.
Hey,
the nation's largest government
that.
agency is unable to fully account for its budget of over $824 billion. They don't even know where billions of taxpayers' money is going. Efficiency is coming, to which Musk retweeted with a comment, sounds like a job for Doge. I mean, he really looks like he's looking forward to getting into the numbers here.
Elon's going to be like, yeah, the Pentagon spends $50,000 a year on hair dye for the woke generals that lead it. You know, we could cut that waste. We have nothing else to say here. Yeah, the government spends money on diversity, equity, and integration programs. We got to cut money on that.
I rest my case, Your Honor. Here he goes. He's just going to keep on these guys, hitting him every day to 1 billion people that are willing to listen, and the head squeezing begins. I love head squeezing. This is fantastic. They're going to think he's going to go away. No, he won't. He'll just keep going and going and going and going, and no one's going to stop him. He owns the network. We've never had anything quite like this, and I absolutely love it. This is terrific.
All right. Well, we'll see if they can wring that money out of the federal budget. It'll be something to watch. Kevin, great to catch up with you. Thank you, sir.
I'm Steve Doocy.
I'm Brian Kilmeade.
That's great. this guy wants to cut the Pentagon's budget? No, he doesn't. I promise you, I promise you, I promise you, I promise you. No, he doesn't. Or, you know, I don't know. Maybe he does, but it won't happen. Yeah, that guy's name is Kill Me. He's begging for help.